Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chouinard. I'm here with Tyler Jones and Glen Willis after the Hawks won their 11th game in a row over the Dallas Mavericks. The Hawks came out hot right out of the gate, especially Onyeka Okongwu, and they led start to finish. Do you have any big takeaways here, Tyler?
Um, I thought they were sloppy on defense for pretty much the majority of the game, especially the starters. It didn't matter because they knew the Mavericks, if they locked in, they couldn't score on them, but kind of disappointing effort considering how well they've been playing up to that point. Um, if they're going to win these next two games here coming up, they're going to have to be more locked in because they're definitely playing better basketball teams than what they faced with the Mavericks. But the Mavericks didn't offer a real challenge. Play with no point guard. Cooper Flag is not a threat as a primary ball handler. So, like, there was never a doubt that they were going to not win the game, but they didn't play well. I'll just say that.
What did you think, Glenn?
I thought it was interesting that Jason Kidd went with a small lineup to start the game. I thought the purpose of that was to be able to play fast with the Hawks and not have a Gafford on the floor. And I thought that was a good strategy. I think Cooper Flag had a little bit more structure around him, a little bit more support in that sense. And I thought PJ did a good job kind of for them, kind of just kind of playing five out and initiating and all that sort of stuff that he does. So it's an interesting tactic from the Maverick side of things. I still don't think they're trying to win games right now because that doesn't really help them. But I also think Cooper's development is critical. You can't throw him out there with like a bunch of kind of, let's say not veteran players that are going to kind of help him, kind of figure things out, work through things. So I think they're trying to balance important, he was the number one overall pick last year. He's a centerpiece of where they're going to go the next one, two, three, whatever number of years. And so playing some veterans out there with him, I think helps him without over-indexing towards it to win games that maybe you don't want to win.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I honestly don't know what the Mavericks are doing with Cooper. Um, like I think it's trash. This is not helping him. This is not how he played in high school or college. I understand people think you just put the guy in the ball in his hands, make him a point guard. Like that's how he's going to become a great player. But I'm like, that's not his game. And forcing it to be his game is going to make him into a worse basketball player. You see with his jump shot, like it's a mess compared to what it was at Duke. I he needs the Mavericks need to do something different in the offseason, maybe go with a different coach because this is not like I don't know what they're doing. Like they're not really developing. Like other than they give Cooper Flag all this usage, but there's no real structure that I'm watching to how they're playing off of Cooper, outside of when Chris Middleton and Klay Thompson are in the game. But Cooper doesn't play with those two for some reason. So I'm like, what sense does this make? He's playing alongside a bunch of guys who don't know how to do anything with the ball in their hands, while Chris Middleton and Klay Thompson coming off the bench. Like Cooper should be playing 100% of his minutes next to those two guys. Like those two guys are professionals, basketball players that know what they're doing. The rest of the team, not to say like PJ Washington and the rest of their starting lineup aren't good players, but they're not structured offensively to help somebody like Cooper Flag. He is never, I don't think he's ever going to be a Luka Doncic type. You just give him ball, you give him uses. That is not his game. He needs more structure. He needs to play in a more Budenholzer Quinn style offense than what they're doing in Dallas. And I find what they're doing to be very distasteful. And I'm like, they're just wasting time. Like, to me, I watch them like this is a waste of time. They need to completely restructure in the offseason their team to be younger. Like they've got a lot to do because this is just like to me, it's one of the it's not talked about as one of the worst like situations in the NBA, but like it's pretty bad because like this is not like they're setting Cooper up for failure to me. Like this is reminds me a lot of the Pistons and Cade situation before they got real structure in the head coaching room. Like I'm not a fan of anything that the Mavericks are doing right now, and like I'm hopefully they move on from Jason Kidd because like Jason Kidd is not I don't think Jason Kidd is the coach for a young basketball team, period. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like it's 2 games of this, and I'm like, this is like why are you having Cooper Flag go 1-on-1 against literally the best perimeter defender in the sport? Like, what is this proving? Right? Like the Hawks don't do that with Jalen. When Jalen has a good defender on, they don't just give him the ball and tell him to go create offense. That's stupid. Like there's a blueprint for success with Cooper, and hopefully somebody in the Mavericks organization grows up and makes that decision with Jason Kidd, and they get real structure for their team. But like on the Hawks side, I don't have anything like this. This was it. It was like less than exhibition level because again, like how the Mavericks play on offense. I know they scored 120, but it's just like they were never a threat. And then defensively, I don't know why they're this bad defensively at the same time. They shouldn't be this bad, but they are. At least when the Hawks play them, like it's they. To me, I didn't like the effort that team played with. Uh, like I just think it's teaching Cooper a lot of bad habits that he did not have, coming up as a prospect.
We've talked about it ad nauseum, but we get some different iterations. Kuminga played today,
Good well.
and it still seems very relevant. So I'm going to bring the question up, sort of once again, like, what do you think of what the Hawks are doing with their bench, Glenn?
Yeah, I mean it's I think he helps that second unit, his athleticism, and he played some with Jalen tonight. I have to go back and look at the exact kind of overlap that they had there. But this was his best game in a while, for sure. Knocked down the corner three, was making good decisions with the basketball. And defensively, again, the a little slow in rotations at times, when he's low man, and things like that. But overall, his athleticism still, his rebounding pops for sure, right? The rebounding is there for sure. But I think he's, it's one of those things. I think when I watch him play, like offensively, the overlap of what Golden State does and the Hawks do is, I don't know, 2/3 of kind of just motion and cuts and moving the basketball, not over possessing the basketball, that sort of stuff. So I think that stuff clicks for him pretty naturally. On defense, it's a little different what the Hawks do. Again, their defense is swung towards their backcourt. Their front court is swung towards offensive capability. So just a little bit kind of you have to be earlier in this defense on your rotations, getting to the front of the rims, coming out of the weak side corner as low man and getting above the restricted area. That you have to be earlier in this defense than against Golden State. Golden State has a little bit more size in the back line. And such and such. So for me, I think he's just making progress on that end, but the rebounding definitely helps a ton. And I think he's had to learn like, oh, Jock and Nyeka aren't rim protectors. That's not what they do. So we have to be here early, and I think it's getting better.
Tyler, what do you think about the bench in general, but also, Jonathan Kuminga?
I mean, I don't know why Kispert is still playing. Like he had a couple nice drives, but the defense is just not there. And this is a defensive first team. Like in the playoffs, I don't think they can. I don't think Quinn can get away with playing Kispert anytime on the floor. Uh, like those are minutes that could 100% just go to Risa Shea, and like the Hawks are a better basketball team because of it. So, like the sooner Kispert's out the rotation, the better. And I really don't like the Kispert, McCollum, Landale lineups, though. I thought tonight, Risa Shea and Kuminga in particular made it work because of how good they were defensively. Particularly Risa Shea, like I put it on Blue Sky that Risa Shea's showing Kuminga how to be a low man because like he was early, he was tagging early on the roller. He was showing Jalen Johnson too, who wasn't doing it the entire game. Again, they were not competing. Like I'm like
Yeah.
it was frustrating to watch like Jalen just be late on every roll when clearly you're supposed to tag the roller because the guy rolling can't pass. Like force him to make a decision with the ball in his hands, you get an automatic turnover. Game would have been over, you know, with 7 minutes to go instead of three. So I overall like I don't like that Kispert plays, but Kaminga just in particular, this was one of his better games overall. Like I think in the first half, He was getting good shots in his spots below the free throw line, and like you live with those like fadeaway 8 to 10 footers. Those are good shots for him. He can make that regular consistency. Then in the second, I really liked that he was getting dribble penetration, but not forcing the shot. Where he was getting dribble penetration, getting two to the ball, and then finding a shooter. Like, and if he does that, this is exact. That's how you keep Jalen from playing 38 minutes a night. Like, and that's how Kuminga gets to stay in the rotation just in general. Like him doing that. That's what the Hawks need from him because he is a good driver. He can get dribble penetration without a screen. He just needs, to play with a little bit more focus and control on the offensive side of the floor and not look for a shot as much. It's not that he's a selfish player, but it's just his mindset is to look to score first. Whereas you draw help, kick it out to a shooter. We got great corners, 3-point shooters on his team up and down the roster. You got to trust him to make the shot. And so, like tonight, I thought he did a really good job playing off of Nikhil in particular, Nikhil is playing some unbelievable basketball. Like, it has to be said, like, this is like, what if Bogey was also an elite defender? This is an unreal stretch from him as a basketball player. Like, I think he's starting to get buzz for most improved, but, like, I don't think people are recognizing because they're overplaying how bad this Hawk schedule has been in terms of quality opponent. But, like, Nikhil's playing incredible basketball, and, like, his shooting is unlocking some stuff for both Jalen and Kuminga as drivers. So, like, I think that combination combined with what CJ brings typically, that's going to help Kuminga a lot more. He just needs to be more under control, more focused than what he was the previous two games, where it was like he was forcing the issue a little too much.
I could totally see Kispert not being in the postseason rotation. Like that seems entirely plausible. And it's not even that, I mean, it's probably true that they should excise him from the rotation, but like, I guess the thing for me is that the combinations that they use just don't make any sense. Like, I agree with you that, like, and I think I tweeted it that Kuminga and Riza were helping keep the defense afloat. But like, how are you playing those three together? Like, it's just you've got teams deliberately trying to just target Kispert on defense, and when that works and they get past him, there's just no rim protection from your center, and it's just not a good combination. Like it just I don't know. It just feels
But
like they could work some different iterations where
but but
Kispert is
Kev,
out there with Mo Gay, or it's just like why is it those two out there together? I get that they're your backups, so they might be out there together, but you're doing other versions of staggering. Like there's got to be some way to make this work a little better.
but I'm gonna be honest, Kevin. It was tonight in particular. It was worse with the starters when he played on those lineups with the starters to close the first and the second half before CJ came back in the game. It was way worse because like he's a worse defender than CJ McCollum, and like
Yes.
teams just pick at him all the time, and it's and then combined with on offense, like he's a non-entity on offense, like other than catch and shoot 3-pointers. They're not running any actions for him. So it's like, all right, what are you getting from him that you can't get from even like somebody like Gabe Vincent if you don't want to put
Exactly. Like Gabe would be a perfect complement if you feel like I have to play Jock Landale. Like that put Gabe Vincent with Jock Landale.
with,
Like those two
with
should go
Jock
together.
Landale and CJ McCollum. Like I think like just play Gabe more and keep it moving. Like I don't. They're trying to make it work with CJ, but again, once they got Kuminga and Kuminga's in, like healthy and playing, I just don't think it's helpful for anybody for like to be trying to pigeonhole where we can find good Kispert minutes because they're gonna watch the tape and it's terrible. Like it's just bad on both like it's bad on both
Yeah.
ends. He doesn't do what they need from him as a basketball player because he's not that great of a shooter. And like that's kind of the reality of the situation. Like You know, if he were, yeah, but even then, like a lot of the Hawks' success has been the fact that they took Veet and Kennard's minutes out the, completely out the rotation. Now they're playing all good defenders except for Kisper. And so when Kisper's in the game, he's just a leaky faucet too often on defense, and then he's not providing enough value on the offensive end.
Do you think do you think that they would use him the same way, Kispert that is, if he wasn't under contract for next season?
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. I mean, he'd probably not be on the team. Like, if we're being honest, but he's signed to a guaranteed contract, and I mean, I get it. They're trying to pump his value any way they can, but it's just they're losing the minutes. They're just losing the minutes every time he's playing. Like, it's easy to see he's just not like if he were just a better help defender, even maybe it'll work. But like he's bad at that. Like the Hawks were giving up offensive rebound opportunities because of him, because he's not a good athlete, and so it's tough. It's like you're not giving me anything to work with right now. And until like unless he's making every three he takes, like it's just not good enough. Again, the drives have been pretty impressive though. I will give him that. Like he's been a really
Yeah.
good driver going up against smaller defenders, but then sometimes he'll make a decision where he's in transition. And he wants to go 1-on-3, and it's like, what are you doing? You know, he cannot afford to make the mistakes that Shea makes sometimes. Like that's just the reality. He does not have that runway with me because he's an older player. He's been in the league for five plus years now, almost. Like it's just it's got to be better than this from a basketball IQ standpoint. Like legitimately, like the basketball IQ has not been there with him with the Hawks.
Just going out of sequence here. I thought this might have been like Kuminga's best game, just backtracking for a second.
Yep.
Because like we know what his number one MO on offense is, right? Like it's get to the rim, finish or get fouled. And like he couldn't get all of that, but I thought like his secondary offense, which is like these little mid-range, like you've seen in some previous games where that secondary version of his offense has been kind of ugly. Like he'll take some fallaways that are a little too far off to the side, a little too far from the rim, a little too bit off balance or too much falling away. And he was much more balanced and he was getting them, closer to the rim. They were just much higher percentage shots than what he's done for that version of his game in some of the earlier ones. So I thought that was really encouraging. And I still think he's just got so much potential as a defender. Like he makes a lot of little help plays where he just recovers very quickly afterward. And that's super helpful.
Yeah, it's about becoming more precise as a defender each game and realizing that the Hawks are built differently defensively. So, but like I said, I think he's showing improvement every game. We talked about it last podcast. Like he needs to play. Like even the last couple games, like where he got 18, 20 minutes and it was up and down or rough or whatever. He still needs to be on the court to feel the scheme, feel the responsibility, feel the role that he's in defensively. He needs those reps because when you get down to the last, say, 12 games or so, as we've talked about, where you're running to a pretty tough schedule, he needs to have settled in by then and to be able to kind of handle the role that he needs to handle. So even if it's a little bumpy against a bad team, I think that's totally fine. He needs those reps so that when they get up against Boston and all those other teams are playing down the stretch, that he's settled in by then. He has to play.
Glenn, no Mo Gay tonight.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, well, it's interesting for me because as Dallas is playing small, my brain goes a little. I mean, Landale's a pro, like he knows what he's doing. Not any verticality, so he's not really going to kind of be a big presence in front of the rim. That's not what he's going to work his butt off as a rebounder. We know what he's going to do, right? But when Dallas is playing smaller, my mind goes to Mo would be really nice, kind of thing to deploy here right now. He's more range. just can kind of get from the corner to the rim and back to the corner way quicker than like Landale can. Not that Landale's ever really playing low man in the weak side corner. He's up to four a little bit and stuff. But then I also think like today, like as Dallas is trying to play faster, Coloco's just faster than Landale. He's just faster than him. So, and I understand that Landau is a stabilizer. He has a high defensive floor as a communicator and organizer, not so much as an athlete, right? So I understand the veteranship that he deploys. So I mean, like we talk about all the time, there's trade-offs. There are trade-offs, there's trade-offs, there's trade-offs. But when PJ was playing the five, I would not have minded seeing Mo be a matchup that Quinn kind of turned to. There, when Gafford's on, you need bigger guy. But even then, Landell didn't fare so well against Gafford in his minutes tonight. Um, but yeah, you start PJ at the five, and the Dallas is trying to match your pace. Coloco's fast. Mo's even a little faster than Coloco. I wouldn't have minded seeing some of that at the five tonight.
Tyler, how do you feel about the Moge thing?
I'm with Glenn in that I just want to see the Ricochet, Moge, Kuminga lineups. Like I want to see if we can get that because that's the lineup he's going to have to play in the playoffs. Like again, like to me, Quinn needs to orient his rotations based on what he's going to do in the playoffs. Because like I look at it, and I'm like I don't think you can get a I don't think you're going to be able to play Landell. That all that aside, like I think if you were to ask me like truthfully, I think Landell was the better play for tonight because of how big the Mavericks play in general. And he's a good like hub to throw the ball in to get because the Mavericks are probably going to do a lot of switching. So he's a good guy to have at the top to set the hard screens, roll to the rim, and create advantages that way, which I think the Hawks did. Like, his defensive foibles aside, I thought he helped immensely on offense. Um, so like I get why Quinn went with him if the point is I gotta win the game. I'm just of the opinion he needs to look past this one game or these one stretches of games and look towards the playoffs because he doesn't want to be in a scenario where he has to play Mo Gay with lineups that Mo hasn't played with. Like I don't think he wants that, uh, particularly in high level situations. But if he, that so like this is the time to experiment a little bit here. But again, like I think Quinn was more concerned with rebounding, so that's why he went with Landell overall. Just because again, like even though they don't play a center, they do play like multiple power forward size players, and so like having Landell as a like switch buster helped overall for them tonight. But I would have still liked to have seen Mo from a experimental standpoint.
Is there a game coming up this week where you want to see that lineup in particular?
No, not against. I mean, Houston.
Houston's huge.
Yeah, it depends. Houston, I'm watching right now. They're not playing Capella, so if Capella doesn't play, maybe if it's like Jabari Smith at center or something like that, yes, Mo Gay. But if it's Capella, no, we can't. We can't mess around with that.
Yeah,
Capella will go right through Mo Gay.
yeah.
So
And Şengün's just super physical, and so
like,
Well, if you've got Şengün and Jabari Smith, can use Mo on Jabari
and
Smith
they're fouling a lot because they've been the
and
smallest. So um, I don't know if going with Mo would help if he's playing center.
okay. So, just in general, what do you want to see in this Houston matchup?
it's going to be the hardest game in a while. Now Houston's 5-5 in their last 10. They barely beat the Pelicans. They've had a couple bad losses, so I think they've. I don't know if they're tired of that. I haven't looked to see like how often what were they playing. They're playing every other night, kind of like the Hawks are, or what's going on. They were 5-5 in their last 10, but I mean, but they're physical and they're well coached. And we talked about how the Hawks had to be prepared for that Orlando, and they fully were, and they went in and won that game and were prepared for that. That's going to be the same context. I guess it's Friday they're playing, right? Playing Houston. Same context, they got to go in and be physical. And a lot of that starts with their backcourt being physical with ball pressure, physical at the point of attack, physical working over screens, all that sort of stuff to protect your back line. That's not as big as Houston's is, depending upon how Hugh Houston is deploying kind of across their front court. And so the whole key is ball pressure. If you can take, 11 seconds off the shot clock before they get into their action in the half court, they're sitting there with 13 left on the shot clock or whatever. Every second of the shot clock is precious when you can kind of bleed that some and shorten the possession defensively for the Hawks. That's to me that's their key to success on defense is that ball pressure.
Anything particular you want to see against Houston, Tyler?
Well, a lot of teams are doubling Kevin Durant, and he has not responded well to that. There's probably some lineups that they gotta at least throw it out there to see if he's gonna pout about it, because his body language has been pretty terrible in the last couple games. So frustrate KD is probably number one because that can take the air out of the they're still a good team, but without Steven Adams, they lose their primary edge of offensive rebounding. So like that's been the biggest issue is that their offense is it's pretty predictable, rudimentary stuff, and you can frustrate them as a team if you like Glenn said, keep up the ball pressure because they don't really have that many great ball handlers of as a team. And Amin Thompson's not the best point guard. Like he's not Dyson Daniels because he doesn't offensively he doesn't play with Dyson's awareness and feel for the game. Like it's all drive, front of the rim. I'm gonna be the better athlete, and this is a good matchup for the Hawks for the most part to guard against that with him. To take that stuff away, like he and KD don't have great chemistry together. Again, I just don't think Amin's a very natural field type player. It's exclusively on ball only stuff with him. Doesn't do the other stuff very well. So the offensive, if they can continue their trend of being a good defensive rebounding team, they should be fine on the defensive side of the floor overall. It's just going to come down to execution on offense. Are they going to continue to play the right way on offense, which they have the last couple of games? If they continue to do that, combined with what they've done defensively over this stretch, I think they should win it because I think they're the better team than the Rockets right now. But they can't come out with the lack of focus as they played with the Mavericks. I need to see what they did with the Magic. They got to come out and play like they're playing the Orlando Magic because they're a similar type of team. You got to be locked in. You can't give up anything easy to a team that struggles on offense. So that's kind of my bigger takeaway because defensively, they will have stretches where they're shutting everything the Hawks want to do down. They have a lot of good defensive players. So it's going to be important for them on their side of the floor defensively to not give up easy stuff so that they can survive the stretches where their offense isn't flowing well. Though I think they should be able to find some gaps with who the Rockets play overall. But it's going to be a good game. I think they're going to win. And, I'm kind of excited to see them continue how long they can go with this winning streak.
Yeah, so to me, it's gonna be interesting to see what Quinn does with the center matchup because Şengün is, we'll say, a quasi product of Luter, and he is physical. He foul baits a ton. He tries to get under you and get you to foul him. So I don't know if it'll be a straight up kind of, and Yeka playing the first is usually it's about 7.5, 8 minutes of the first quarter. Then Landale comes in, and then we get to about halfway through the second quarter, and Yeka's back. Or if Quinn will kind of if Yeka gets into foul trouble, that's going to throw the rotation off. I mean, against Şengün, you got to keep your hands back. You can't put your hands in front of you. He will go through your hands if you put them in front of him. He is smart as hell in terms of how he goes and gets you to foul him. And so that's a real key to this game. Now, Landale is, in some sense, it's not the athlete, but he's probably a little bit stronger than Onyeka, just in terms of his willingness to kind of be physical and kind of body the guy he's guarding. So it's been interesting to see if it's a straight 1 to 8 minutes, then 8 minutes in the first quarter to halfway through the second quarter, or if Quinn's going to switch it up a little bit and give Onyeka a break so he's not on when Şengün's on all the time. To me, that's a real coaching decision point. I'm interested to see how Quinn deals with that because, like I said, if you put your hands in front of you, Şengün will be shooting free throws every single time you do that.
All right. Very good. I appreciate you taking the time to jump in late at night after a game again, and I guess it's time to say goodnight, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Yeah, Bob.